Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special session presented by Tilottama Foundation in association with Mansi Therapy, where we will discuss the various mental health issues that are happening during this home quarantine for COVID-19 pandemic that is raging all over the world. And the speaker for today is Ms. Anesha Bhattacharya. She is a consultant psychologist as well as an assistant professor at University of Calcutta. She will be the speaker for this day, and I ask her to take over the session.
Okay. Thank you, Shaham, for the introduction. So the issue that we have taken up for the discussion today is the common mental health issues during the state of home quarantine. So whatever issues we are going to discuss is actually a repercussion of the pandemic COVID-19 as well as the state of lockdown or home quarantine that we are in. Okay. So the way I have planned the discussion for today is we are going to firstly concentrate on the problems that have cropped up, the mental health issues that we are facing in common, and then we are going to go into the solutions or the lifestyle strategies or coping skills that can help us to cope with the process. Okay. So the first issue, which is aggravating in some cases, why I use the term aggravated is because we have also got to consider that there are already a large number of individuals who have got anxiety issues in general. So this COVID pandemic and this home quarantine state has not initiated anxiety in them, but has aggravated it. And for some people, this has been a trigger for higher levels of anxiety than they have experienced in the past. So how has this cropped up? Why are they facing anxiety more so as of now? That is because of a few issues basically. The underlying issue is one is fear of death. So one thing that we have got to keep in mind is anxiety often leads to catastrophizing situations. So say if I'm having just a small cough because of this climate change, weather change or something, I might attribute it to COVID. So that's something which is very commonly happening, that we are catastrophizing the issues for ourselves. It's not something that we are doing intentionally, but that is one of the ways that anxiety is reflected. Another very common fear is fear of uncertainty. So you know it already. I don't need to mention this in specific, that the factor of uncertainty has aggravated even more now. We don't know for sure when this lockdown is going to end. We don't know for sure how many days we are going to have to stay at home like this. We don't know for sure who is going to be infected, who is not going to be infected. So this uncertainty is becoming too much for us to handle. Thirdly lies another fear, that is the fear of isolation, that we are alone in a lot of cases. We are deserted from a loved one. Say our loved one is in a far away place and we are in a far away place, so we are not only scared for ourselves, we are also scared about their safety. We're also scared about the fact that when are we going to get to meet each other again, when are we going to be together in the same place again. And in addition to this, there is also this tendency of constant monitoring. So what happens out of anxiety is you might find yourself checking the facts every now and then, watching the news every now and then, getting into the dashboards and checking the numbers every now and then. So this is also a factor, that we are constantly monitoring the condition, and also constant vigilance. We are being extremely vigilant about our physical health. So if you are having minor breathing problems climbing up the stairs, you might be scared that what is wrong with me. I'm having a minor cough and cold, and I might catastrophize it that okay, maybe this is the onset of COVID. So these are some of the common features of anxiety. Also, I would like to mention here that for a lot of people, they don't even figure out that they are suffering from anxiety. For them, anxiety reflects as sleep disturbances, agitation, restlessness, the difficulty to relax at any given point of time, that even though when they're sitting down, they want to relax, they want to go to sleep, they're not being able to do so. So that's one important factor that we are having to deal with. The second important issue is depression. more so for the senile population or the senior citizens. So as we know, in most of the metropolitan cities, the senior citizens are in any case alone. Their children have moved out, they are in different cities, they might be abroad, they might be in a different country altogether. So again, there's this panic in their mind about their health, because as we know, for COVID-19, the more your age is, it is directly proportional to the risk of COVID. So there's a kind of fear they have about themselves. They're also fearful about their children who are living in different cities, living in a different country altogether. And their ways of socializing are in any case limited. Maybe their way of socializing was going for an evening walk in the nearby park, going to the shopping mall for doing the monthly shopping, monthly buying of groceries. But now even that has been cut down. Okay. So what they are commonly facing is more a feeling of loneliness, more of a feeling of isolation, a hopelessness, fear of being left alone. So these are the issues that our people are facing in a state of depression. Also, people are also getting very very bored, because we are homebound. Our activities, our range of activities have also got limited to a lot of extent. So that is leading to a lot of boredom. People who are very outgoing or extroverted in general, they are finding it very limiting. And it's kind of an imposition on them that we have to live by these rules, live by these regulations, and that's becoming very frustrating for them. Now these are diagnosable mental health issues that a person can suffer from in the state of home quarantine. But apart from this, there are some issues that may underline in you. For instance, disturbance of sleep hygiene. This is something that is very commonly being reported by clients, by colleagues, by students of us, that I'm not being able to sleep because we have got these sort of reports from clients that I was looking forward to this lockdown because I was so stressed about my work. I was not getting enough hours of sleep. But now, though I have all the time in the world, I'm not being able to sleep. I'm staying awake at night. So that's the problem. Irritability, agitation, anticipatory anxiety in the sense, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen after this, what is the number going to be tomorrow. So there's a constant state of anticipation that you are in. Hopelessness regarding the future. So these are some underlying factors which are working. Apart from that, another giant population which is also suffering quite a lot at this stage is parents of children, and also children who are being compelled to stay in this lockdown state. So a lot of us are concentrating more on the children, but what has to be kept in mind is none of the children are going to watch this Zoom session. The people who are going to watch it are primarily parents or caregivers. So that's also something that we have to keep in mind, that parents who are otherwise working, who have a working schedule or are still working from home in this home quarantine state, for them keeping their children engaged, keeping their children occupied, keeping the children happy, managing the frustration, anger, temper tantrums of the children is another issue altogether, and it is somehow heightening their issues for themselves. That's also an issue that we have got to consider. And also mental health issues of professionals who are having to work from home. So though they are homebound, it's not that their work has got limited. They're having to work from home, and this is a switch in their daily lifestyle. So otherwise they would wake up in the morning, have their cup of tea or coffee, have their breakfast. There would be a switch. They would move out from their home, they would take their medium of transport, go to the office, work for a stipulated number of hours, and then again come back home, which is an easy switch to make. But now staying at home, it is becoming difficult for them to make this switch, how to balance their sleep cycle, their working hours, and their time at home. And they're getting very frustrated with the whole situation because there's a state of vagueness, like it's not a holiday, it's not a typical working day, it's somewhere something in between, and they're having problem dealing with it. Last but of course not the least, one sector of the population which is having tremendous problem dealing with this situation are the healthcare workers. And when I say healthcare workers, I'm not only talking about doctors, nurses, mental health workers like us, but anyone and everyone who is related to a hospital or nursing home setting. It could be an ambulance driver, it could be the sweeper, it could be the cleaner, it could be the matron, it could be the hospital management. So they are the ones who are not getting any holidays. They are having to see this all up and front. They have no ways of denying it, they have no ways of avoiding it. So this is also one sector of the population which really needs care during this time. And this is something that I would like to mention because this is a growing number in the state of home quarantine. And this is somewhat related to mental health issues also. I don't know whether you are following these counts, but domestic violence is on a tremendous rise during the state of home quarantine. Also, child abuse is at a tremendous rise during the state of home quarantine, which again stems from an inability to regulate your emotions, your inability to control your anger. So, anger management issues, temper tantrums are also a very important area to be addressed because these are the issues which are leading to violence, which are leading to aggression at home, and it's making the situation difficult for the other family members to handle. So now we have discussed the problems, enough of the negativity. Now we will come to the solutions. So I have tried to keep the solutions as general as possible so that it helps people in general also. Like it's not only for the diagnosable states, but also for people in general. So the first thing that we have got to figure out, especially in the state of COVID-19, is this constant monitoring over public media, social media is not really helping. Like, how would it change your life? Like, if I see the news and I know how many people have died today, how many people could be asymptomatic, how many people could be, suppressed data around my area, how is it going to change my life? How is it going to make it any better? Would it? No. So the first thing that we have got to do is we have to find valid and reliable sources of knowledge. Okay. So one valid and reliable global source of knowledge is World Health Organization. You can follow the WHO website anytime that you want. Another very valid source of information is UNICEF, especially parents of children, caregivers of children, caregivers of the elderly. They can follow the UNICEF website. There are some wonderful materials that you will find there regarding how to inform children regarding COVID, how to address children during this time of COVID. Also, one national source of information which could be of help is the website of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So these are some valid sources of information that you can follow. Also, limit your time to the exposure to news. It's not helping you in any way to watch these news all the time. So what you can do is you can choose a window of 30 minutes every day, which you keep aside just to know the update of news, just to know the update of the global scenario, the national scenario. That is enough, I think. Okay. Secondly, what you can do is concentrate on the things which are within your control. So just like I have mentioned, one of the issues because of which anxiety is aggravating is fear of uncertainty, fear of losing control. That there are so many dimensions of my life which are beyond my control. How do I deal with it? So the solution to it is don't concentrate on the negative. So it's all about seeing whether the glass is half full or half empty. So concentrate on the half full portion of the glass. So what you have to concentrate on is what are the things which are within your control. So my daily routine is within my control. When I go to sleep, when I wake up is within my control. How I plan my whole day's work is within my control. So these are things which are typically within my control, no matter what the global or public scenario is. So plan your day. Plan your day, make a to-do list at the start of every day so that you have something to look forward to. You can start in a positive way. Okay. Another thing is, in spite of the fact that you are staying at home, this is for children, this is for adults, this is for everyone, irrespective of what your age is. One thing is maintain consistency. What I mean by consistency is, of course, now you are at home, you have all the time in the world, you have more time than you can afford at any other point of time. But even then, what you have to concentrate on is keeping some amount of consistency in your daily routine. So for example, your sleep cycle should be constant. For instance, you don't abuse your sleep cycle too much. For instance, you go to sleep one day at 11 p.m., one day at 12 a.m., one day at 2, one day at 3, one day at 4. So what you are typically doing is you are abusing your sleep cycle, and that is very much directly correlated with depression, anxiety, mood swings, irritability, agitation, lack of motivation. So try to maintain consistency in some things in your life. For instance, try to maintain your sleep cycle. Try to maintain physical exercise in your whole day, preferably in the morning, because again, physical exercise is something which secretes a lot of positive hormones in our body. For instance, endorphin, for instance, the neurotransmitter serotonin, which are contributory towards positive mood, which somehow help in alleviating symptoms of depression and anxiety. So when you start your morning with something positive like a physical exercise, you can have a positive outlook towards the whole day. You are starting on a positive note. Another thing that you should keep in mind is that you should limit your screen exposure. Okay, so limit your screen times. It's very easy to monitor your screen time. In every phone, they show you your screen exposure. In every Android phone, they show your screen exposure. Basically, more than 4 hours of screen exposure, of course, apart from your working hours. If you're working from home, that's a different issue altogether. But if you're not working from home, more than 4 hours of screen time is harmful for you. Okay, so limit that and try to replace it with other activities. For instance, reading books, writing, sketching, singing, dancing, exercising, spending some quality time with your family, anything apart from doing anything over the screen. So that's something again that you can do. Another thing is there are a lot of researches, there's a lot of data to prove that a lot of our communication is non-verbal. Like maybe I am using words, but to tell you the truth, words make up only 7 to 10% of our communication. So another thing that could help is, even though you are away from your loved ones, even though maybe you are in one place and your husband is in another place, you are in one place and your children are in another place, what can help is communication, and preferably video calls. Why video calls? Because video call is a medium over which you also have the advantage of having the non-verbal communication, because 60 to 75% of our communication is non-verbal. So just a smile that you see across miles of your loved one can lift your spirits for the day. Okay, so when we have this advantage of using technology, let's use it in a positive manner. So this is one thing that we can do. Another useful thing which you can incorporate into your daily life is meditation, or any sort of deep breathing exercise, any sort of grounding exercise. For instance, I'll give you an example. Okay, so wherever you're sitting, tell me 5 things that you can observe around you, 4 things that you might get to hear, 3 things that you might get to smell, 2 things that you can touch. This is nothing. This is just a small exercise for a minute, which can bring you back at the present moment. Because another feature of anxiety is it never allows us to be at the present moment. So one switch of 1 minute doing this sort of an exercise can bring you back at the present moment. There are some other visualization exercises also, because visualization exercises can work like magic. Now, what are visualization exercises? You can just close your eyes and imagine a place which you consider as a safe place for you, or a peaceful place for you, and try imagining it as vividly as possible, utilizing your 5 senses. So what is your safe place? How does it look? Say it is a sea beach for me. So how is the sea beach? How serene is it? What is the color of the water? Where are you exactly sitting? How do you feel the breeze on your body? What are the smells that you get? What is the sensation that you feel in your body when you feel yourself sitting beside the sea, sitting on the sea beach? So just imagining this for 2-3 minutes can work magic. Okay, so this is something that you can also incorporate in your daily routine to deal with anxiety? Okay. Now, some special tips for people who are working from home. So one thing that you can do is limit a time and place for your work. So in your home, like, we are all very lazy. Truth be told, we are all very lazy. So we have this tendency of sticking to this one place, this one comfort zone where we would want to do everything. We would want to eat our food there. We would like to binge watch there. We would like to do our work from home there, everything. But that's not healthy. That's not helping you to switch between your work culture, your working mind, and your home quarantine mind. So to make this switch, what you can do is fix a time and place for your work. So fix this room, fix this set of desk and chair where you are going to do your work from home. Also, fix your hours and try doing it preferably in the first half of the day. So just like you used to leave for your work after breakfast, do that. Do your breakfast, prepare a fixed working hours of say 3 hours or 4 hours. Sit there, sit in that one fixed place, dress yourself the way you would do when you leave for office. So wear your formals, sit there all prepared with your cup of tea or your cup of coffee, do your work, then again switch, undress yourself, wear your casuals that you wear at home, go to the other rooms, chat with your family, spend time with your family, make the most of staying at home. So this will help you to make the switch. Try avoiding those times or those working hours which somehow interfere with your me time, somehow interfere with your family time, somehow interfere with your sleeping hours. This will help you in dealing with this routine. So eventually, in a few days, this will become your office cycle, staying at home. So this is something that you can do. Another thing that, which is a common and a general directive for everyone who is watching this video, is take one day at a time. That's a good suggestion for people who suffer from this sort of an anticipatory anxiety, who are having a lot of trouble dealing with this uncertainty. Take one day at a time. Make a to-do list for every day. Approach every day with a sense of positivity. Go to sleep looking forward to the next day for some plans for the next day, and then go to sleep. Another tip for the night. Now try doing most of your work by the afternoon, by the evening, and keep the evening to unwind yourself. So do all the fun activities during the evening. At night, before you go to sleep, if your anxiety or depression is bothering you too much, you can write it down somewhere. It will benefit you in 3 ways specifically. First, writing is a very positive form of ventilation. So whenever you write, you feel like as if you are letting your heart lighter, like you are sharing it with someone else. So it is a very good means of ventilation. Second way, how it is going to help you is it is going to give you a sense of direction for the next day, for the next day, for the next few days. Third, once this whole state is over, once this whole Hollywood science fiction movie happening with us is over, you are going to look back at your journal and diary and going to feel good about it. That, we surpassed this. All of us, we overcame this period. And your diary and journal is going to be an evidence towards it. So that are 3 ways in which journaling or keeping a diary could help. Now, people who are having specific problems with sleep hygiene, there are some things that you would have to maintain. So say if you are going to sleep at, your target is going to sleep at 12 a.m. Then what you have to do is by 11 p.m. you have to detoxify yourself from all sorts of electronic gadgets. So if you wish to sleep by 12 a.m., by 11 a.m. you should stop all your work over laptop, iPad, mobile, TV, any sort of electronic gadget. What to do during this 1 hour? Read books, write your journal, write in your diary, paint, sketch, anything that you like. But any sort of passive activity is allowed, but anything which uses these sort of electronic mediums is not allowed, because it arouses your brain. It stimulates your brain. It messes up with the melatonin secretion, and that somehow interferes with your sleep hygiene. Okay. Another few tips that could help take a shower before you go to sleep. 1 hour in advance, take a shower. Say if you are planning to go to sleep at 12 a.m., you should at least have your dinner 2 to 3 hours in advance. So if you have to go to sleep by 12 a.m., you should finish your dinner by 10 p.m. so that you get to give your body the time to digest the food, because until and unless digestion is done, you won't find it easy to get to sleep. If you're feeling hungry before going to sleep, you can have half a glass of cold milk. That could help. Now, I don't know whether you have essential oils available at your home, and of course, I wouldn't suggest you to step out in this state, but lavender essential oil is something which can help with sleep. Chamomile tea is something which can help with sleep. So, these are also things which you can use to help with your sleep hygiene. If you cannot take a shower, at least wetting the extremities of your body, for instance, your hands, your feet, the back of your neck, which are your nerve extremities, could help you in falling asleep. So these are some specific tips to help with your sleep hygiene. Now coming to the healthcare workers. So coming to the healthcare workers, again, as I mentioned, for the people who are doing work from home, maintaining some amount of dissociation, though I know it is difficult, but maintaining some amount of dissociation in the sense, leave your work in your workplace. When you come back at your home, also we should keep in mind that a lot of healthcare workers are not even getting the chance of returning home to keep their parents safe, to keep their family members safe. They are having to stay in some other place, and that is also an adjustment issue, that is also an adaptability issue. So try to dissociate yourself from the workplace once you are back in your place of rest or relaxation. That could help. Try to not getting panicked in that situation. How you can help yourself is talk with your peers, talk with other healthcare workers, talk with people who are in a similar situation like you. So a sense of relatability always helps, knowing that I am not alone in this and there are other people who are dealing with the same situation helps a lot. Now, coming to the parents of children. Number one, if you have more than one child at home, at least 20 minutes of one-on-one time. And we underestimate children's intelligence. They understand everything. They understand everything and they're very intuitive. So there's no use keeping them inside a bubble. They are understanding that there is something going wrong. Not only children, even pets can also sense our energy. Pets can sense our emotions from the pheromones we secrete, from the smell that they get from us. So children are very intuitive. Children can very well understand that something is going on. My parents are agitated about something. My parents are worried about something. They seem worried after seeing the news every day. So don't keep them in a bubble. In as much simple language as possible, explain to them what is going on. One-to-one communication every day for every child, at least 20 minutes is important. So have a one-on-one conversation with your child every day for about 20 minutes. Let them give you advice. Let them give you suggestions. Be an active listener. Listen to them. Listen to whatever they have got to say. They can see TV. They can watch video games because, truth be told, they have a lot of time in hand and you can't just engage them with painting, drawing, and studying. It's not possible. So limit their screen time. It's not that they would do all the time. Limit it. Try to use it as a reward if possible. So those are the things that you should do. Use them for helping you in the household course, because we have all been children. As children, we hated studying, but we loved everything that the adults used to do, the parents used to do. So use your children to help you in the household course. I think they will be more than happy because they're going to feel like adults. They're going to feel like grown-ups. Another thing is playing together. That is going to be a good source of emotional ventilation for you also. It will give you happiness and give your child happiness also. Another thing is doing school assignments together, doing homeworks together. Another thing that I would like to mention is sometimes it is becoming very frustrating for the parents. So what you have to do is, at that point of time when you might just shout or just break down, take a switch. take a break from that situation for just a couple of minutes, or not even a couple of minutes, even a minute. There are things that you can do during that time. Nothing. Switch on your timer for 60 seconds. Just watch your timer. Take deep breaths. Take deep breaths. Back count 100 to 1. These are some things which can help. Just taking a break from that situation for a minute or a couple of minutes can help you bring your anger down, bring your agitation down, so that you can communicate the same thing but in a better manner, but in a more acceptable manner. Use positive specific instructions when you are trying to instruct something or direct something to your child. For instance, don't make a mess, don't make things dirty. Rather than saying things like this, say them, leave the plate in the sink, put your clothes in the right place, please put your clothes in the wardrobe. So use positive frame of words rather than using negative, frustrated frame of words. Another thing that you could do is give them time for physical exercise also. So they have a lot of physical energy, more than you and me, more than any adult for that matter. So when they are not getting any chance of using up that physical energy, they will get angry, they will get agitated, they will throw temper tantrums. So you have to find ways of utilizing their excess physical energy which is not being utilized staying at home. So physical exercise is also a necessity for children. Apart from that, you can do physical exercises funny also. You can do an impromptu dance, you can do an impromptu singing or something of that sort. These are some things that you can do. Praise good behavior and teach them that bad behavior has its consequences. So these are some general instructions that we have. So on my end, the lecture comes to an end. I hope I didn't bore you. Now you can come up with your questions or queries, whatever you have in mind.
Well, hello, Mrs. Bhattacharya. I would like to ask you about how would we like to have because our physical exercise is limited. So what is
Right.
the food? So what is the food we're going to intake? It's going to affect us, and we are
Okay.
also being agitated. And for the anxiety part of it, we are not
Right.
either we are eating too much, either we are not eating at all. So what is
Yes.
your recommendation on that?
Okay, thank you. That's a wonderful question, firstly. So, when it comes to exercise, walking on a terrace, that's something that you can do. Walking, spot jogging, freehand exercise, and I'm sure there are a lot of, you will see, there are a lot of YouTube videos about freehand exercises that you can do at home. So, basically, 30 to 45 minutes of exercise, among which cardio could be for 20 to 30 minutes and strength training could be 10 to 15 minutes. So in cardio, you can do spot jogging, you can walk on the terrace. These are things that you can do. And with that, you can add up to it 20 to 15 minutes of freehand exercise. So that is enough. That's enough. Now coming to food. Avoid junk food, avoid fried food, avoid food with a lot of sugar, even if it is natural sugar, because these are foods which do not lead to much of serotonin secretion, and those are also food that we intake because of binge eating. Whenever we feel depressed, whenever we feel anxious, we have a tendency to binge eat. So what kind of food we can have are healthy snacks, healthy form of snacks, say oatmeal, muesli, these sort of snacks, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. And because you are staying at home, you have the liberty of having food whenever you feel hungry. So whatever intake capacity you have in mind, try to have 75% of it. So you have the choice of having food again when you feel hungry, and preferably 4 meals a day. So breakfast, lunch, and evening snacks and dinner at a gap of about 3 to 4 hours. So that would be advisable.
Thank you for your advice. It's lovely hearing from you. Great help.
I hope we are actually running short of time, and I thank Ms. Bhattacharya for her excellent presentation on mental health during COVID-19 home quarantine. And if there are more questions, you can send to our email at tiltmafoundation@gmail.com. And I thank you all for joining us today. I think today there has been a very healthy participation. And I thank all the contributors as well as our partner for this, Mansi Therapy. And thank you all. Good night.